Two experts in ICF.
Yeah.
Decades of experience. One podcast.
Yeah.
Two hosts with a lot to say.
Look, I cannot sit through a struggle. I gotta get up and hustle. I gotta push through the pain, cause really that's how you build muscle.
Welcome to the Build With ICF podcast with your hosts, Trevor Brown and Heather Herring Brown. Yep, they're a package deal. With over 20 years of ICF installation experience, Trevor can throw down some expertise on sales, marketing, and training. On the other side of the table sits Heather, aka the girl boss. And she's earned the title as the owner of an award-winning ICF construction company, a drafting and design company specializing in ICF. And the numbers? With a master's in accounting, she does that too. Sleeves up, boots on. This is the Build With ICF podcast.
I don't want nothing for free. I'm here to work. Been through the dirt. I've been through the dirt. Yeah.
All right. Well, okay. Now I can hear myself.
Sorry, I had it turned down.
He had the
I'm playing with the buttons.
Playing with the buttons again. Okay. Well, what are we? We're episode 65 today. And do you want to start? This is all new with the sponsorship thing. So I'm curious, how do you want to run that through? Do you want me to bring in, right immediately, a word from our sponsor?
I feel like this is something we should have talked about before I started recording.
But then everybody couldn't hear us figure it out.
That's true. But what we're talking about is a word from our sponsor.
Yes.
That's what I like you to say. It's
okay.
And now a word from our sponsor.
And now a word from our sponsor.
Perfect. Thank you. The ICF industry finally has a unified voice. The World Insulated Concrete Form Association, WICFA, is launching now to support advocacy, education, and industry growth. Be a part of it from day one. If you're a builder, manufacturer, engineer, distributor, or industry professional who believes in building a stronger, more resilient structure, this is for you. Visit WICFA, WICFA.org, and join the wait list right now. We are looking at hopefully an April 1st launch for the actual association membership. So get on the list. It's getting fast and hot and heavy.
Yeah, so. I was going to say knee deep, but I think it's up to my eyeballs right now in onboarding for the association. So
yeah, going very well.
Yes.
So anyways, go back and listen to episode 63 if you want more information about that. But episode 65.
Yes, episode 65
is maybe even more exciting. Ooh. We've been talking about getting these guys on. They chased us down at the World of Concrete, and we were like, hey, yeah, we need to get you on the podcast. So we have on today is kind of a double dip.
Oh,
okay. We have two guests talking about two separate products that are now merged into a power product company that is going to be Rubber Wall and Hobbs system going in as Pow-R-Wall. So anyways, super cool. If anybody's heard about it, I'm sure you've read about it, but we're going to hear it right from the horse's mouth. So we've got Troy on here. Hey, Troy, how are you doing?
I'm doing great, guys. Thanks for having us on.
Yeah. So go ahead and give us a little rundown. We'll start with you, and then I'll let you bring Andy in. But why don't you give us a little bit about yourself and who, how you got into this, and tell us a little about your product.
Well, I want this to be a part of the podcast, so I'm going to say happy belated birthday to Heather. So just
oh, you win. You best guest move ever. Yeah, he's the only guest to wish you happy birthday on the podcast. So now he just put himself in a special class.
There you go. See, I knew I'm trying to gain favor wherever I possibly can. So, you were talking about Pow-R-Wall and Rubber Wall coming together, but so we have a parent company that was formed. It's called Resilient Building Products. So cool. Everything kind of lives underneath that. So, I'll just tell you the quick story. It would be a year ago. I was at the World of Concrete, and we had our booth for Rubber Wall, and talking to a bunch of people. And it really opened my eyes to ICF because I did not realize all the opportunity that there was with ICF. And so, walking the show last year, and I bet I ran into 20 different ICF manufacturers. I was like, this is crazy, and Rubber Wall is a great product for ICF because it's all rubber and it doesn't melt the foam. And so automatically I started thinking, well, geez, this has to be a target for me as a national sales guy to go after and start talking to ICF manufacturers. And when I left the show, I got the list from Craig Shorts, was a good friend, I'm sure of you guys and ours. And
yep.
And I started making calls to ICF manufacturers, and lo and behold, I run into this company called Hobbs Building Systems. And Andy and I got on a call and had a great conversation and found out we're both from Iowa. So obviously he's a good dude. So we kind of kept it going. But yeah, over the last year, we've just kind of come together, and Andy was in a position to where he wanted to partner up and really see his invention grow and to a new level. And we were ready for something new. So we partnered up, and now we've rebranded kind of everything, and now we're Resilient Building Products, and we've taken Hobbs and renamed it to Pow-R-Wall, which kind of fits our rubber wall and the whole theme of everything going on. So that's kind of how it happened. It was my first World of Concrete that kind of started this whole thing going.
I love the name. I love Resilient Building Products. Love it.
Yeah, that's super cool.
It's a good one.
So Andy, we're going to go ahead and bring you in now. Now you get to tell you the real story. So tell us what Troy didn't tell us.
Well, let me start with correcting him in all these areas. No, I'm just kidding, really. So I go back. Well, the brand has been around. I developed it in 2005 and started with installations, in Iowa, as Troy mentioned. Hands-on experiences made the product better, just improved it through, experience in the field, and worked with a lot of people that were in the business of primarily like poured walls, things like that. So my background in it is really, it started with the wood building component business. So I started in the roof truss, floor truss systems, wood wall panel components that were manufactured in a factory, shipped out to the site, engineered wood products like I-joists, glue lams, basically wood structures and design. So that's my background in terms of what led me to the developing the Hobbs system, and so that started in the late 90s actually. And then with that experience, I kept coming across these things called ICF blocks, and I'd go out to the field and I'd see these things, and it's like, I was very intrigued, and I loved the concept. And unfortunately, a lot of times I would go out to these job sites because a framer would call up and say, hey, we've got a problem out here. We need to figure out how to put your product on it or what have you, or connect it, or you just help them figure out some things. So a lot of times I'd go out to these jobs and I'd see a mess. And I'm like, again, it was a great concept. It is a great concept. I believe in it, obviously. And I thought, we could make this a better mousetrap and solve a lot of problems, I think, with a little bit different design, but get the same results. It just in an easier, faster way. And so that's what led to the ideas of coming up with a better mousetrap.
Explain to so some of the listeners may not know the difference. They've seen the blocks and stuff, and some people, like I said, we've got over 100 countries. So maybe somebody hasn't seen it. Explain your system to people that haven't seen it. I mean, I'm going to put the links obviously in the show notes so everyone can go and check this out and see it for themselves and follow up on it. But just for our audio listeners here, kind of explain what your system is and how it's different.
Okay. Well, being from the truss business, back in the day when they were stick framing roofs in the 90s, for example, they used to use a lot of big pieces of lumber, 2x8s, 2x10s, 2x12s, a lot of lumber. It couldn't span very far, and this wood truss system came into play, and I started selling it early on. And a lot of the builders wanted to kick me out the door because they were like, you can't do this. Well, you can't span this and do this without all this lumber. Well, as we know, moving forward to today, that's almost the only way it's being done now. So it was optimizing the use of materials within those trusses to make it span farther and perform better, and with engineering to support it. So optimizing the use of materials within that truss and roof system or floor system was really the catalyst for me applying that method to the Hobbs vertical ICF at the time. So we use our contour wall design as a proprietary design. We use about 45% less concrete in our walls compared to a 6-inch flat wall ICF. And believe it or not, 59% less than an 8-inch poured wall. And we do it through engineering, and we don't sacrifice strength or anything like that. We done physical testing at Iowa State University back in 2009. and prove the strength of the system. And that was monumental because, we were pushing the envelope on innovative products. And at the time, there was a little bit of pushback. And I'll be honest with everyone, that was a time when I had to do a lot of proving of our concept, and the support that Iowa State gave us to prove that it did actually perform better as a composite value. When you put the concrete, rebar, and the system together as one, we actually performed around about 50% greater than what they thought it would perform as with just rebar and concrete alone. So the system, we don't sacrifice strength, and we wouldn't be in business for 20 years if we had. We've never had a failure. We've never been sued, and we're going to keep it that way. But, we've been around for a while.
Well, we'll try to keep this podcast clean enough that you don't get sued for anything on this podcast too. I'll edit out anything. We'll try to keep it clean. But no, that's awesome, and that is and I know it because I've been around a long time, and I'm old and I have a gray beard, so I've seen the product. And I have never actually installed the wall. It's one of the systems I haven't worked with my own hands, but definitely very aware of it, and I've seen it out in the industry, and it's super cool. I mean, I think everybody knows by now the reason why we do this podcast is because we love the industry and we promote everything that's within the industry that is kind of us against the stick frame guys, right? And so I've just really have a lot of respect for people thinking outside of the box with, we like I said, I love the better mousetrap kind of concept, right? There's so many things where I've had people come to me over the years and said, hey, we're going to create our ICF block and we're going to compete with everybody. I'm like, okay, well, there's a lot of really good ones out there. What are you doing different? Well, ours is going to be 4 feet long. It's going to be 16 inches tall. And okay, that's pretty much all the block. What are you doing? So it's really cool to see people thinking of some other ideas of ways to use insulated concrete form walls, the way that you're doing it. So super cool. So
thank you.
Let's kind of get into a little bit. We've got this new system now. Tell us, kind of give us now how this all merges together and what you guys are doing moving forward.
Well, basically, what we're doing is we're creating a system, and that's one wall, one warranty. So
Wow.
Whether it's from the poured wall or the ICF wall, and then also the waterproofing. Creating that one system. So, and we all know that where the building industry is struggling is, from the different trades and trying to, get everybody on the job site and doing everything together. And so having to make a call, just have to make several calls is obviously a great benefit. So as we continue to kind of, work on this partnership with Andy and move things forward, we're really trying to automate a lot of things as well, and coming up with some new ways to ship product out to make it more readily available, and having waterproofing maybe already, applied to some of the areas of the wall, and panelization, just different things. I mean, it's a constant evolution of ideas, and how do we just make it more efficient? Because that's where all of this industry is heading, right? Efficiency that's where it's going to be. So, we're getting calls, and yes, probably you are too, Trevor. I mean, builders who are like, listen, I got to come up with a new way of doing foundations because I can't find the people,
right?
So we got to make it easier, and that's what we're working on.
Well, I love watching some of your guys' videos and seeing how you talk about speed. Speed is a big deal. And I think people are finally recognizing that. I mean, the ICF industry in general has been able to, has always been fast. We just haven't been able to get that across to people how important that is, right? It's cool. Heather went out with her assistant one time and they stacked a house, literally two girls in the middle of winter stacked a house faster than the framing crew next to them framed a house, 2x6 house. And yeah, that's cool for bragging rights and it was fun, but it was, I think what people are realizing is when we talk about affordable housing and things that are, the buzzword right now, everywhere. I mean, I'd say nationally, but it's probably internationally, but time is money. And so when you guys are talking about a system that can actually speed things up, and make it happen faster. I mean, ICF is already fast, watching some of the videos and stuff, your guys' system is really fast, even compared to the standard block systems. And then when you start integrating more steps into it, like you said, trying to get things panelized and waterproofed or whatever it is, any of that little innovation to make things faster is where we can save money. It's really hard to save money on EPS, right? I mean, that's just a petroleum product that's going to be the price of what it is. It's a commodity. It's really going to be in the skilled labor side of things, and so being able to get it done faster. So that's really cool. How do you guys? What's your guys' distribution model? Like, you guys, are you guys go down through? Are you guys sell direct? Are you guys going through distribution? And distributors and dealers, and kind of tell us a little bit how you're doing that, and maybe where you're manufacturing, and where you guys reach out to, just so our listeners know kind of what area they're in.
Well, and I don't want to take up, all the space from Andy, but what's really cool about the story of resilient building products and Rubber-Wall, Pow-R-Wall is to look at the two individually and where they came from and what we're bringing together as a system. Because you think about Rubber-Wall, Matt Veazey is the son of the founder of Rubber-Wall. And, they started that back in I like to say the 1900s, just because it just
sounds so cool. Yeah.
But back in the early 90s is when they came out with that product, and man, it is truly one of the best waterproofing products on the market. But it was always direct to the applicator. Never have they ever tried to go through distribution channels, or they just always wanted to keep that kind of family orientation and go directly and work with guys that are out in the field. And when I came on a couple of years ago, we were still doing the same thing. It's directly to the applicator, but you don't get a lot of growth with that, right? You gotta find some different ways, and kind of Andy was doing the same thing. He didn't want it to be huge and wanted it to be manageable, and so but now we put the two systems together, and now it's an evolution of, well, now we can grow this thing. Now we can scale. We can do things that was never thought of before. So we're really working on the channels of being kind of in the central of the U.S. and being able to ship, everywhere versus being on one coast or the other. And we're trying to simplify that, because we all know shipping is enormous part of, what we do.
Terrible.
And now we have to be more.
It's not getting any better. So it's not getting better.
Well, one thing I want to add too is, one thing I want to add is that we have about 25 different suppliers of our EPS panels that produce those panels to our specs.
Got it.
And they're all over strategically throughout North America, the U.S. and Canada. And so we can pull from different, talking about logistics, it is incredibly important, probably more now than ever, with a shortage of drivers and that the cost of freight is just continuing to go up. So we have an answer for that in terms of suppliers in different parts of the country in Canada.
Cool. And are they, when they're reaching out to you guys, are they reaching out to a local distributor or dealer, or are they reaching out to you guys directly? Like, for our listener listening to this that wants to get information, they want to get involved, or they want to buy something from you, are they reaching out to the local dealer, or are they reaching out to you guys directly?
Right now, they're just reaching out to us directly. So, I mean, you can go on the Pow-R-Wall website, or you can go on, the Hobbs Building Systems site that still exists out there, and they can set up a call with us.
Cool.
And they can, email us for information, whatever. But yeah, and most of the time it's going to come either through Andy or through myself. So, this initial stages, it's him and I, ebbing and weaving a little bit through the whole thing. But yeah, they can go right on the website and get connected with us.
That's awesome. Yeah. And I think that's great. Like, I think that's so cool. We're, we've been involved over the years with a lot of different products, watching them kind of take that step, because there are some guys that stay pretty well. As you guys know, there's quite a few of them out in the Midwest that are, regional guys. They've stayed regional, and they're, it's funny. I've had a few people sit, because our listeners will send in like, hey, will you call XYZ block company and see if they'll come on, that, I want to learn about them, or I used them, and blah. So I'll reach out. A couple of them I've reached out to, and they say, yeah, we don't want to get on a podcast because we don't want people calling us. It just causes more headache than anything if they call us from California, because we're not going to ship it to California. So, we have a certain state region we cover, and that's kind of what it is. And so it's fun. It's interesting. And Heather and I have a problem with starting companies and doing it. So, especially Heather, worse than me. She's worse at that, and also buys more equipment and tools than I do. So that's the reason I married her. But I just think that I just love seeing companies that are scaling, and that's just super cool. And I think it's a really good way to do it when you guys merge a couple companies together that are doing that. I mean, it's, the same. Speaking, I've seen the Hobbs Wall out there for a long time, and understand that. the same as with Rubber Wall. I've seen Rubber Wall, the ads in the, ICF Builder magazine and all the stuff. And everyone, I think, knows I'm a big proponent of a rubberized waterproofing system because it's essentially a pool liner for the outside of your house, right? Like it's one product with no seams that's going down that wall and covering that. The most important part of your house is that cold joint where the stem wall or your ICF wall touches the footing. That's where everything usually gets in. And when that house moves around and settles, which it's going to, it's the taxes and concrete, death, taxes, and concrete's going to crack, right? The three things that we know is going to happen.
Right.
That wall is going to move. And if you don't have something that's going to move with it, then you're going to end up with a leak no matter what you do. So I think that's super cool. That's kind of my thing about why I like both those products. But the other thing that popped into my head I was going to ask you about. So again, lack of knowledge because I've never had this shipped to my job site or unloaded or anything, but I'm assuming everything ships with the wall, like flat sheet, right? It goes together on the job site. So you're not
Correct.
shipping a whole lot of air, which is something that people complain
knockdown
about.
System.
Yep.
Yeah. So that is a nice thing as well. We can typically get almost 2 times more product on a truckload of square footage of wall than the typical ICF block.
Yeah, you're not shipping the air. I mean, and when we talk freight, I think that's going to become a bigger and bigger issue trust me, I ship stuff all the time and I see the freight rate. I got a freight rate yesterday that about knocked me out of my chair because I'm just like, I know what gas prices. I see what the gas prices are when I'm traveling around. I did actually just pop into California for literally about 30 minutes the other day because I was in Reno. We were down in Reno and I drove over to Tahoe real quick just to show one of my guys that was with me because he'd never been to Tahoe. So we'd like, hey, let's drive to Tahoe. We had a little time before the plane left and we crossed the border. It was $5.85 a gallon was the cheapest gas you could buy. If you wanted premium, it was like $6.85. So it was crazy. But I know in Idaho, which by the way, we do have this Iowa-Idaho tie because everyone, when we tell them we live in Idaho, they always say, oh, Iowa, cool. Yeah. And they're like, how's the Midwest? We're like, we're not in the Midwest. We're out west. To a point that I have a golf tournament that I put on, that I'm part of, that me and some guys put on every year. And we actually had our shirts made up one year because we have a lot of people that come out from the East Coast for the tournament. And we have one that's a state of Idaho, but it's with a block that says McCall, Iowa on it, and because everyone thought that we were in Iowa, but
well, the funny thing about that, Trevor, on the other side of that, the flip side of it, okay, is for years and years, people, I would say I'm from Iowa, and they say, oh, okay, so are you a potato farmer?
Oh, potatoes. No, wrong one. Wrong eye.
Okay, no, we're corn.
Wrong eye. Yeah, it's just funny. But yeah, we're lucky. But I know here we've got, $3 a gallon, $2 something, upper twos to low threes. But yet our freight rates are just ridiculous. And so I don't know that we're going to get cheaper freight rates because obviously the fuel's not affecting it. So that's when I think that shipping thing just comes into so much play. The other thing that I'm sure I'm trying not sitting there trying to do your sales pitch for you, Troy, but like being able to ship that stuff all on one is another thing, right? You guys have that system. You've got the water, instead of 2 freight bills, they're getting one that's coming out from you guys. So that's pretty cool too. But
yeah, one of the first times I noticed the real shipping challenges was actually shipping it to Northern California. I had a pallet of our Rubber Wall going out there, and literally the shipping bill was 50% of the whole quote. And it was like that we got to do something about that. That's just crazy stuff.
The quote I got yesterday was every bit as much as the material I was shipping. It's $2,300 worth of material, and the bill was $2,300 to ship it. It was, I think it was like $2,800 of freight, or $2,800 in material and $2,300 in freight. It was ridiculous. But going to talk on the Rubber Wall a little bit, give us for those that don't know how it applies, like an application process and stuff. If somebody's wanting to use this and put this on their wall, is it spray on? Is it roll on? All this stuff. Give us a little rundown.
Yeah, it actually can be applied 3 different ways. We recommend, obviously, if you have access to spray equipment, to spray it on. You're going to get a much better monolithic, coverage of it. And we tell you to spray it to 60 mil at a wet, and then it'll cure down to 40, which is right where you want to be for waterproofing. But we have a lot of DIYers, and a lot of the DIYers are obviously ICF people that will roll it on or brush it on. And it can be done that way. It's kind of like anything else. When you're rolling or brushing it, you are going to wear a little bit of it. But the good thing about ICF is it sticks to everything, but will come off your skin. So if you get a little bit on your skin, you just let it cure up and then you just peel it right off. So it is rubber, but it's really a simple product to put on. Again, it kind of comes back to the hardest part is just getting it to you with the shipping piece of it. But we have a ton of DIY people that use it, that call in and we sell it that way. I mean, then, obviously we're growing our applicator network so that if you're in an area that has an applicator, we're more than happy to connect and have the professional come and do it for you. So it's a pretty easy process.
Well, a little plug for WICFA is we will be, taking our members in the WICFA and having, waterproof applicators, everything as part of the website to help people get put together with you guys and find those applicators around the country and stuff like that too. That's another big part of what we're doing with that association. And people have asked about is like, how do I find these guys, and so it's good to hear that you guys are already building that base up so we can help promote that base for you too, because that's that's going to be a big part of it. I say all the time, and I've said that, beat it to death on this podcast, but we can sell a lot more product than we have installers, whether that be for ICF or waterproofing. I mean, everything. We need installers. So if anybody's listening and you want to learn about this product, please reach out to these guys and figure out how to be an installer for them for either, both of these products. And so, because we can sell a lot more than we can install. That's for sure.
You know what, Trevor?
We provide training as well. So that's the thing. And it's, one of the things for all the years that I've been doing this for 20 now, I've really emphasized on, because it's my family name on the product. And it was really important that the product was installed properly or is installed properly. And it's something that I always took personal, because I didn't want to see my product family name put out there and see, a problem out there in the field and tarnish my brand. So we really focus on the training side and hands-on one-on-one. So what we do though is we're developing even better tools now that we have even more resources with resilient building products. We are developing training tools, and we're always available for one-on-one help on that's specific to your project. And we provide engineered shop drawings that come with a stamp based on your state, and our engineers are licensed everywhere. So we help everybody put the product in, do it right, and make successes out of it.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's perfect. And we that's another one we hammer on a lot is, there's, I got my people out there that go crazy when I talk about DIY guys and how they don't like them and blah, blah, blah. It's not about just giving a guy a product and, slowing down, kicking it out of the back of your truck and driving off and leaving them standing there with the product. It's about support. It's about training. I preach to people when you're picking a product, pick a product like this, that they do the training. They make sure that you've got the engineering, they're doing all these things to make sure that it's going to go smoothly for you, because it's not about just dropping it in someone's lap and then leaving it and hoping they do it right. So that's really good to hear that you guys are doing that, because that's what we need right now. That's for sure. So,
well, one of the things I was going to tell you, Trevor, is that I talked to some people. I'm in Southwest Iowa is where I home office out of, and and I'm right in Fox Blox's backyard. Mm-hmm. And even I talked to them at times, and we are in really a shortage of installers for ICF, especially in this area. And so I've got a couple guys in construction and some builder friends. I said, it wouldn't be a waste of time for you guys to learn about this, because I think there's going to be a bigger need as it goes forward. And if you're willing to be a little bit mobile, you could make a business out of it, installing ICF easily.
Yep. Yeah. Well, I've told him my son's been on the podcast before. I've got a 22-year-old son that he's been doing it. He's great at it, and he can make a lot more money than most 22-year-olds out there stacking blocks. So he's got a lot of buddies that are like wanting to, hey, we're looking for the call when they get their next install. So it's pretty crazy.
All right. So I don't know who to really aim our 3 questions to. We have 3 questions that we ask.
They probably each can answer, probably.
Probably. And if they go long-winded, then we can just mute them and we'll keep going. But it's funny because we talked to everybody before we start the podcast, and so we were joking about how long this podcast could go and
when Heather would shut us off.
Yep, and when I would shut you guys off. But anyways, okay. So our first question, and I know you guys both have very different experiences within the ICF industry, one from waterproofing, one from ICF, and it's very interesting to hear the story of how everybody gets into it. But what is one of your most memorable experiences with your product or in the evolution of your product?
Troy, you want to start?
Well, I was going to say, there's a couple of them with rubber wall, obviously, and seeing, meeting new applicators and different things. But I will tell you the biggest memory I have in the last 2 years is going to be with ICF, and it's could probably be different than Andy's. It was the first time I went to the ICF Awards banquet at the World of Concrete last year and seeing the projects that were being built with it. And mainly pools. I remember the pool section. I was like, I had no idea. So really that's been my biggest memory, is just seeing what's being done with that product. It's incredible.
Okay, Andy, your turn.
Oh, there's so many, I've done this a long time, but some of the things that, that I really take joy in and being in the business is just the look on people's face when I'm working with them and the success they have. And let's take an example of a DIY, somebody that's installing the walls for their own home, and the joy that they get from doing something and then seeing the results right before them. And they call up and they'll say, we just poured it. It went great. I'm so happy. It's everything and then some. That to me is really what drives me.
Yeah, 100%. That is, like I said, one of the coolest things is and the feedback you get for the rest of time, when you're talking to people and that have lived in ICF houses that you built 20 years ago or 10 years ago, and they're just like, every time you see them, they go, I don't know why anyone would, I'll never live in a house that's not ICF. They love their house so much. And then when you add put on the top of that, the fact that maybe they built that. And I've told the story before, but it's one of my most memorable was the same situation, DIY. And it was a father-son. They put their camper on a lot and they built their family cabin for the whole summer. And it was like a bonding thing with him and his 14 or 15-year-old son. And I just was sitting back, and now before that, I didn't even have kids when I was, on that project, and now after having a son and my kids and everything, and looking at it and going, wow, what an experience. That now thinking it's been over 20 years, because I didn't even have my son then, 20 years ago that this guy did this, and I'm sure they're sitting in that cabin today, talking about how, him and his dad built this, So I think that's a great story.
Well, and it is great. Oh, go ahead.
I've got one more I'd like to throw in there, just because I think it's also, again, I've had a lot of great memories over the years. One example of that would be a project in Montana. And I had a gal call me up and she said, I've lost my husband, and we were planning to build our dream home together. And it was terrible. It was a terrible situation. And she said, I have 3 kids, they're young, and I am committed to finishing this project and the dream that my husband and I had. And it was pretty neat because I helped her through that process to build her 2-level home of a foundation, basement foundation, and a main level. And I remember again, going back to like personal experiences and the joy that I could feel from her, it was that when she did the project, her one thing she said is, I had my kids helping. And they're here, she had something like, a 9-year-old and a 12-year-old and a 14-year-old. And she said, it's such an easy product to work with. Even my 14-year-old can install it. So,
that's awesome.
It was, and so it's a great story in terms of someone, being able to take pride in what they've done. And thankfully, I'm blessed to be a part of that in a roundabout way.
That's very cool.
I know that those are the kind of things that's why we do it, right? That's why we do it. So that's really cool. The second question that we like to ask everybody is, and this is going to be interesting for you guys, because you guys are up and coming,
I'm
moving.
excited for this one.
This is kind of a good one for you guys. Is what are you guys looking forward to in the future? Like what's coming up in the future that got you guys excited, that you're thinking about? Obviously, you can make this. Feel free to release any kind of new up and coming trade secrets you have on here for us. But anything that you see within your company or outside your company. But like, there's so much cool stuff going on in our industry. What are you guys excited about?
I'll let Andy go first.
Okay. Well, there's a lot of things to be excited about.
I know it's a loaded question for you guys, I think.
I mean, I could start out with it's here to stay, and it's going to grow. And, with energy standards, the code standards going up, no matter where you are in the North America. Like, for example, when we were at the show, the IBS show here recently, we had someone from Canada that's a builder that builds over 300 homes a year say that, listen, we not only do we have expenses going up in every other area, but they're introducing a carbon tax.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if anybody's aware of that, but he was saying basically that's not just some politician saying that, hey, we're going to find a way to tax things and get more money. This is going to stick and this is going to happen. And so he's looking for ways to comply, and from a business perspective. And he looked at our system and said, listen, one of the big things is concrete has a lot of carbon footprint to it. And he said, when your system, your contour wall design uses anywhere from 45 to 60% less concrete, that really helps me in my business. And so I see incredible opportunities out there, not just of course in Canada, but that's just one example. We're looking at panelizing as a big part of where we're going to be going. Like Troy mentioned, the integrating waterproofing with the product, that's a huge one. Anything we can do in a factory setting to help on the labor side that we've been talking about, I think that's just a real bright future for us and hopefully the industry as a whole.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. I think that's great. So, Troy, how about you?
Kind of along the same lines. I mean, it's just the opportunity that's before us, and what's so cool about the ICF industry is that it's really more mission based. It feels like than just a business, right? I mean, we're all in this to take this industry, and we have such a small piece of it. There's so much growth available out there that it's incredible. And what I love it, like especially being part of Rubber Wall and like going back to the VZ family and what they created, and to see that what we're going to be able to do is kind of take that legacy and build and adding in the ICF piece of it is just going to make it explode, in my opinion. So we're really looking forward to that. And all of, the ICF manufacturers should be, really kind of looking at going, we haven't even really started yet, even though it's been around 30 years. I mean, it's really just now going to get started taking off. So that's the excitement.
100%. I tell people all the time that, it's frustrating after, 25 years of doing this, that it's frustrating and encouraging that somebody that starts this year in 2026, they're going to actually be able to say at some point, someone's going to say, wow, you're a real pioneer in this industry. Because when it's, 50% or 60% of the industry building with ICF, and they go, man, you've been doing it for, it's just, which is exciting. And then the other comment, like Andy said, I believe 100% is the codes are coming to us. I had a person reach out, and I can't remember if it was on Facebook, anyways, one of the social medias, but he sent me a question or put a question on there and said, well, what are you going to do different that you haven't done in the last 20 years? Because they're kind of saying, I was saying how we're going to make this big change with the World Insulated Concrete Form Association. And he said, well, what are you going to do different that you haven't done in the last 20? And I said, my answer was the codes are coming to us. That's why things are changing rapidly for our industry because of the fact that these things are coming to us. With the waterproofing, people are more litigious today than they used to be. When they get water or anything, there are attorneys going through towns, knocking on doors and putting out flyers saying, let us inspect your crawl space for free. If we find any mold, we will sue your builder and get you money. So there's purposely people trying to, find moisture in basements and crawl spaces and stuff. So having a good waterproofing is crucial. And I guess to some point, thanks to the lawyers that are out here trying to sue people, because it's going to make people put a better waterproofing on. And the same thing with the codes. I mean, as codes go up, we're trying to fight that from the National Association of Home Builders side. But as they do go up, they're coming right to us in the ICF industry. So, we can tell people, hey, you want to jump 20 years ahead of the codes, build with ICF. So that's both really, really good answers.
And one thing I wanted to throw in there too that I don't think I mentioned anyways, with our contour design, our standard lineup with that contour design exceeds an R30 as it sits.
Right.
And so we can meet and exceed the foreseeable codes for many years. And that's not without any additional innovations that we plan for.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so I guess you get to do the
The
last
last
question.
question. All right. So I'm going to put this like general, but why was it resilient building systems? Why products?
So this is your sales
Your
pitch to
sales
give us
pitch,
why
yeah.
should people use Pow-R-Wall and Rubber Wall and all your resilient products that you guys sell?
Well, at the onset, I mean, really what it is a system.
Mhm.
One wall, one warranty, one phone call. I mean, we're trying to make it as efficient as possible, yet the best R value, just like Andy just mentioned, to also being watertight. And so, to me, and keeping it economical, right? I mean, that's the other thing is we know that there are lots of choices in all of this. And so what everybody's really probably trying to do is, okay, I've got this amount of money and I want the best I can get. And we want to try to fit into that to be able to be affordable for people to use. And we just think we have, a system that meets those needs. And I don't know what it is about the world, but we're seeing more disaster type stuff going on, and we're seeing, again, energy codes, things like that. And really, that's what to me ICF is addressing, and along with the waterproofing is really getting into these disaster areas as well, and being not disaster proof. Nothing's disaster proof. If God doesn't want it sitting there, He's going to take it out. So it's I don't care what you build, but at the end of the day, that is really about affordability, being strong, being resilient, and really being as green as we possibly can as well. So, and quite honestly, we are never going to get into that corporate structure either. So we're always going to be very, very easy to deal with. Customer service is always going to be one of our probably number one things that we always focus on, and making sure that we're taking care of everybody's needs. So that would be my sales pitch, right?
Perfect. What do you got, Andy?
Well, a lot of what Troy said, but I would really emphasize that we're family owned and operated. I started obviously as a family owned brand in 2005. You look at Rubber Wall; it's proven success since the early 90s. Just good people, and I wouldn't have joined forces with everyone we're talking about in what we have going moving forward if I didn't believe in it. And again, I wouldn't put my reputation or my product in that position if it wasn't a great thing. And just good people focused on service and quality, and we're here to develop even better products in the future. So I'm excited about that, being a part of the product development side and coming up with solutions in the future.
Yeah, that's awesome. Great podcast, guys. Nailed it. That's going to be a good one. I like it. So
Thank you. I really was not
Thanks for having us.
super familiar with the product, so this was very educational for me. So I will have follow-up questions later, because I was sitting here looking at the website as we're going. So I haven't designed or drawn a Hobbs wall, a Pow-R-Wall system yet. So
yeah, when you put that in the repertoire. So
Heather, by all means, Heather, reach out directly if you'd like. I'm here to help you, and I enjoy that part of it. I enjoy the architectural side, design side as well. And I can help you with, if you have anything that comes up, for example, that's challenging or something like that, I have a background in the structure side. So, I feel like I bring a lot to the table that I'm not just offering, and asking the question as a salesman, hey, how many blocks do you want and where do you want them delivered? So as a team here, we offer a lot. And I think it's exceptional.
It's awesome. It really is. So I think that's the biggest difference, I think, between the ICF industry, whether it's traditional ICF blocks or vertical ICF, like what you guys are doing, and the stick frame industry. The stick frame industry is really like, here, we're just going to drop your lumber. Good luck. Here's what we think you're going to need. And this very much is a community relationship based. So I think that's what is really cool about this side of the construction side of it.
Yeah, it's awesome. No, it's great to hear. Good companies, and glad to hear it's taken off. I love seeing companies scaling and growing in this industry. I know that we're on a rocket ship taking off right now, and it's just fun to watch good people taking advantage of that and seeing that finally all these years are paying off for us, so that's good.
Sure.
So I want to thank everybody for listening today. Obviously, send in your questions, anything that came up in here that you guys have questions about. I will be linking both of these guys in the show notes, so you'll have emails and stuff to reach out to them. I'll link their website in the podcast notes, so you'll be able to get to that. Any of their social medias, all that good stuff, we'll put out on the show notes as well. Again, what we always tell them,
Send us your questions. Follow us on our socials at Build With ICF.
Info at Build With ICF. Send us those. I have to apologize because it's so hard. There's so many platforms that people listen to podcasts on, and I have multiple times now. I'm like, oh, I better go check that one, and then there's like a message from 4 months ago. So if you're listening to this podcast on, I don't care. Info at Build With ICF comes right to my phone. I see it immediately.
We both get that one. Yeah.
Please send your questions that are important there. I love that people make comments on Spotify or YouTube or Podbean or all these. There's 100 different places people listen to podcasts. And if you put the question in there, I a lot of times don't know you did. And so I don't want to feel like people think I'm ignoring them, because I did find some messages that were 4 months old the other day.
Yeah, we don't get notifications when they are
so
on there.
Please, if it's important or you want to, I love the comments. That's great. But if you have a question you really want us to answer, please shoot that to info at Build With ICF, and we will get that a lot faster than through the social medias. But you can message us through that too. Yep. Tag us in your social medias, listening to the podcast, and we're still giving out shirts and swag. So if we see that, we'll do that. And then again, last plug for the World Insulated Concrete Forum Association. Right now, you can go to wicfa.org, and you will be able to sign up for get on the wait list for when we start launching our memberships, and go listen to 63 if you want to hear some details of what that is going to entail. And then we will also probably be rolling one out here pretty soon, more of a follow-up to some of the questions we've got from that. So,
yep. And they can find it too on the Build With ICF page. So it's linked there too.
Correct. Which, by the way, will be the WICFA page eventually will be buildwithicf.com. So we'll be transitioning.
I can't wait for that first conference, that first WICFA conference. That's going to be
it'll be a party, dude. I don't do anything half-assed, so we're going to have a party. But we're already talking about that. We're like, okay, where do we we're going to have a couple in-person a year, and then we're going to have our monthly video calls and stuff. So that'll be really cool. But anyways, lots of cool stuff.
Thank you guys so much for coming on today. I know this has been like a long time in the making to get you guys on here. So I really want to say thank you, and we really appreciate it.
Thanks for having us, you guys.
We appreciate it.
Yeah.
Okay, guys.
Make sure the birthday weekend is going to be great.
I will. Trust me. She's got a limo van that's going to drive her around to wineries so she can drink wine all day, and then she's coming home to a personal chef that's cooking her dinner at the Airbnb with all of her friends. So, trust me, she's getting princess treatment this weekend. So we will be headed over to do that. But thanks for being the only podcast listener to wish her happy birthday.
Yes, thank you.
Or podcast guest anyway.
Thank you guys.
All right, guys, we appreciate you. Keep on listening. We'll, send us in your questions and everything. We'll get everybody going. We'll have another episode out here. Hopefully we're back on our once a week episodes now. So we're getting some good content. So anyways, all right. Thanks guys. Have a good day, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thank you. Take care.